Good evening and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. We are here on the 29th of December to review Aston Villa in 2022. And joining me to do that is Kevin. How are you, my friend? Ready for the new year?
Mate, ready for bed? Look at me. I got my village armies in.
Got his Aston Villa Christmas jammies. I saw pictures all over Facebook of that, mate. And
Yeah, lovely.
excellent pictures they were too.
Thanks, mate.
Good stuff. And we've got George joining us a little bit later as well. So to have his views on 2022. And if you guys can get involved in the comments, let us know what you think of what's been a very interesting year. Just before we delve into detail, we've split it up into sections across the year rather than like going through each month. But Kev, another year of missed opportunity, another year of turbulence, or is there, maybe signs of positivity coming into 2023?
There's undoubtedly signs of positivity, I think, with the manager that we've got. And obviously, all of the news recently about the confirmation about the stadium expansion plans and obviously the evidence happening on the site and all that will come with that. So that's, for the club generally, definitely. The women's team's gone from strength to strength, a lot more positive. But absolutely, as you said, and this seems to be sort of my catchword at the moment, it's opportunity, an opportunity missed. And another situation where, we could have pushed on and kicked on. And we haven't. The one thing I'd say on that point is it feels like the positive, though, is that not a lot of other teams have done that. If you think about it, really, obviously Man City are as strong as, as they could be now with Haaland. Liverpool are probably not as good as they were. Arsenal have kicked on, undoubtedly, and Newcastle have kicked on. But other than that, they wouldn't really say your West Hams have, Everton, Leicester, all those teams that were kind of there or thereabouts. Chelsea aren't what they used to be. Spurs aren't what they used to be. So there should still be signs of positivity on that point alone, that if you can have a good couple of windows and get Emery style going, that the future can be bright. End of podcast. 6 years old. Thanks for your
time. Yeah. But no, I think if you look across, I do think you're right. And there'll be many teams, many supporters doing their own podcasts for many teams saying, similar things to what I'm sure we will today, things that haven't gone right, managers that have lost their jobs, new era, all that kind of stuff, new signings, some have worked, some haven't worked. And unfortunately, that's the life of a football fan. But yeah, I mean, we've got so much to go through today. We've got, obviously we've changed the manager in across this year. We've signed numerous players this year. We've had ground development approvals. We've had, one or two players leave. Games that we should have won where we haven't. All that sort, injuries that have caught new signings that have come in and that have got injured straight away. You name it, has happened to Aston Villa this season. So we'll get right into it as we go. Like I say, get involved in your comments. Leave a like on the video as well, please. And Kev, we've been stuck on 739 subscribers for the last few days. I'm sure we can get to 750 tonight if everyone who's watching and hasn't already, please click subscribe. I'm sure we can get to that 750 mark.
I don't think you probably push it as much as maybe other sort of channels and platforms do about some things, but we probably need to be a bit more like incessant about it. But if everyone could just tell any Villa fans, friends, share it, please. Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're at. We really do going to appreciate all the support. But after a bit of a hiatus for the World Cup, we're really keen to keep the channel on now. So yeah, please share because we really want to get to that 1,000 mark and then beyond. That would be great.
Absolutely. And I think, you know what? I think I reckon we're the most underrated Villa podcast out there. I'd say we'll have to go with that tag, the most underrated, under the radar Villa podcast.
Could be a good one.
Yeah. So let's get into it, Kev. January 2022. Cast your mind back. We'll go through this period here, and for me, it was all optimism. Gerrard had come in with an initial buzz. We'd won a few games, then we lost a couple, but had played really well. And I think January was signalled with the signings of, in particular, this guy who's been in the news recently, and this guy as well from Everton, Luca Dean. The other one for those lists for when we release it as a listening was Philip Coutinho, obviously. And I mean, how excited were you that we signed these players in that January transfer window?
The January window was really exciting. I really felt like, Gerrard had come in, obviously in the November, I think it was. We'd had that run of 4 wins in 6. I think we lost to a couple of the big teams, didn't we? That was in close-ish games. We're talking, I think it was Liverpool, maybe Chelsea was the other one. But, we had a good wins against Brighton, good win away at Palace. We kicked on, we beat Leicester. I can't remember who the other win was, but we got 4 wins out of 6. Got to the new year. Gerrard's pedigree was hugely, exciting for us. What he'd done with Rangers in Scotland, although it seemed like it was more Michael Beale than it was Gerrard after what we saw. And then we get to January, and I felt like we won the transfer window. When you sign.
That's what we were saying, weren't we?
Yeah, Coutinho, Luca Digne, international pedigree, left back, played for Barcelona, Roma. Obviously, did really well at Everton. Then when you add to that, obviously we signed Callum Chambers, didn't we, as well?
Yeah.
Did we get Olsen as well?
I'm not sure if we got Olsen in the January window. Maybe on loan. Maybe I can't remember. I'm pretty sure we're missing someone that we signed. That was a pretty big signing, and I can't think who.
Yeah, maybe someone can enlighten
us. Yeah, someone let us know in the comments. My mind's gone blank with who else we signed. But yeah, I mean, obviously the getting Coutinho on loan was just incredible. And in terms of the results that we got in that January, they weren't fantastic, to be honest. We didn't have many games. We in terms of Premier League, we lost to Brentford on the 2nd of January, 2-1. Then we drew with Man United. That was Coutinho's first game. Obviously, that 2-2 draw. That was a great game at Villa Park, and one that you really remember. You kind of talked about that game a lot over the podcast, Kev.
Yeah, that game was unbelievable. We went down 2-0. He looked like, after all the play, we played really well in the game, and then Coutinho comes on. Just even sat there watching Philippe Coutinho getting ready to come onto the pitch just felt significant in terms of where the club had been just a few years before in the Championship, with some of the players that we had. And to be in a scenario where all of a sudden this international star, someone who's won the Champions League, playing at the top level, is about to come onto the pitch for us was unbelievable. So I think it was just hugely exciting. And then the game turnaround, 2-1, 2-2, you had Ramsey getting involved. It felt like, my God, we're going to grow and build from this. It was amazing.
Yeah. AJ said Chambers. We mentioned getting him in, which is a good signing. T1's back in the house. Hello, guys. Haven't been on in a while. Hey, great to have you on board, and happy Christmas to you, and wish you best for the new year coming up, and everyone else who's joining us as well. That United game, obviously, I mean, what a story. Coutinho coming through and against United, ex-Liverpool scoring, and great night that was. And then we go on and beat Everton 1-0, and that was Emi Buendia scoring, and obviously Gerrard against his old foes at Goodison, probably one of his big moments. So one of his big moments there. And then moving into February, we had another up and down month. February was a draw against Leeds. That huge game against Leeds, where again that was the Coutinho show. What a performance from Coutinho on that night. Amazing performance, and that was the show. That was when Ramsey came to the fore as well. 2 great finishes, but poor defending again from us in one or two moments from Leeds. But one of those mad games, particularly with Bielsa sides, that you just can't quantify. But again, 3-3 draw. Then we get beaten against Newcastle. Again, poor performance up there. And then the loss against Watford. We talk about these games where we should be winning. We should be beating teams around us or towards the bottom of the table, and that was one massive wasted opportunity. So yeah, if anyone's wondering, Kev's just had to jump off. He'll be back on in a second, and George will be joining us very shortly. So yeah, just me for now. Just rambling on about the games, but I think the noticeable factor within just saying there, Kev, the noticeable factor within that time in February was just the topsy-turvy nature of our performances and our games, and drawing against Leeds in that great game at Villa Park, but a great game, but a missed opportunity, drawing 3-3, and then two poor performances against Newcastle and Watford, losing 1-0. But then at the end of the month, kind of wrestling that back against Brighton and winning 2-0, despite not really playing that well. But again, just that kind of topsy-turvy nature of what we were like at that time.
It just felt like we never really kicked on with any real momentum. It was always felt like there were opportunities to stamp our authority and to take a charge at the league, and then it'd be one step forward, two steps back. And that's absolutely right. And the Leeds game, again, I've got really fond memories of that game. I've talked about that, as well as Coutinho's debut. Coutinho was unbelievable against Leeds. We played so well. Tyrone Mings got out-jumped by Daniel James for one of their goals, and somehow they got a 3-3 draw. Amazing game, fantastic, but we conspired to lose, a winning position. And then all of a sudden you lose to Watford. I mean, that game was terrible. It just felt like you were up, down, up, down, up, down. But like we were hearing all around that time is, give me a summer window, let me get my style on the squad. So I still felt there was a bit of confidence there, because even if it wasn't really perfect, Gerrard's only been here 2-3 months. It'll all turn around. And plus, at that point, there was still plenty to play for, because we thought we can have a good run. We can maybe get that top 10 finish that we've been aspiring for so long. That would have felt significant for us as a club to be a top 10 Premier League club. Didn't quite turn out like that, did it?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And if anyone's noticed there's a young man to come sneaking into the podcast. The legend himself, George Fowler. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, yeah, lads. Yeah, not too bad. Sorry, apologies for being late. I'm just having a bit of dinner there, but yeah, nice to see you, lads.
Right.
Christmas.
That's all right. You can't let not. I'm sure you haven't eaten enough already over Christmas. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you can't let that get in the way.
No, exactly right. You know that.
Good. Well, yeah, I think, and obviously just moving into March time. Again, just that. Well, actually, we the result against Brighton seemed to kickstart a little bit of a run. We beat Southampton 4-0, and then Leeds United 3-0. That was on Southampton on the 5th of March, and Leeds was on the 10th of March. So that made it 3 wins in a row in the Premier League. George, I mean, I guess that was kind of the high point for Villa at that point. The win against Southampton and the win against Leeds were probably 2 of our best performances of last season.
Yeah, they certainly was. The Southampton game for me was the best performance we did last year. I was at the game, and yeah, it was fantastic. I remember coming out of there just thinking, bloody hell, this Coutinho is pretty handy. Maybe this is the new dawn, and the usual false hope that we get. We just completely battered them that day, and it was sort of a one-off really for the season, wasn't it? Like hammering 4 goals against anyone.
Absolutely, yeah. It was that. I mean, that's why we get so excited about these type of wins, because they're just so infrequent. And then to go to Leeds and just absolutely put on a show and beat them 3-0, we were like, we can really push on up the league here. And I was at that game, and it was just a brilliant away performance. And that was that goal from Callum Chambers, Kev, that we're thinking, who have we signed here? Because he'd played that outside of the foot pass against Southampton to set up the pre-assist for I think it was Luiz or Coutinho's goal, and then he scores that curling effort against Leeds, and we're thinking, have we signed Prime Maldini or something?
That was a real weird situation, that whole kind of few weeks, because I mean there was absolute comparisons to Trent Alexander-Arnold's pass for Liverpool's first goal at the weekend. That outside of the foot pass was arguably even better than Trent's. And that goal, if it had been a big 4, big 6 club, would have been talked about a lot more. It was Aston Villa, but anyway. And then he scores that absolute worldly Ellen Road. I mean, it was unbelievable. You're absolutely right. That was the high point, because then we started losing games every week, didn't we, after that? But I don't know what was it? Why did we not kick on from that point? It felt like that topsy-turviness had been overcome a little bit by those victories, and also the manner of those victories. Yeah. We absolutely blew, George, you're right, we blew Southampton away. Leeds away we thought was going to be a tough game, and we absolutely battered them. Could have been more. And then I think it was West Ham we lost to next, wasn't it? And it just, then Arsenal, and that was a terrible game. We didn't play very well. Then Wolves.
Well, jumping in there, lads. We lost 4 in a row. And you're right, Kev. It was West Ham, Arsenal, Wolves, and then that 4-0 defeat against Tottenham. Now, I think the noticeable thing about the 3 games before that before that Tottenham game was 2-1 against Arsenal, went against West Ham, 1-0 against Arsenal, and 2-1 against Wolves. It was just the wrong side of the odd goal, and we just couldn't. After winning 3 in a row, it's just that same thing again, just that 2 steps forward, 2 steps back scenario again, George.
Yeah, 100%. It was just a very frustrating time, really, wasn't it? You sort of build yourself up thinking, oh, here we go, we've got the momentum, we're going to start our little charge up to the top half like we all thought it might happen, but yeah, it just never really materialised. I mean, the amount of games last year we lost by the odd goal was it do your head in, didn't it? Especially away from home, like the continual 2-1 defeats at Brentford and places like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we said Brentford 2-1, Wolves 2-1, West Ham 2-1. Later on Liverpool 2-1. It just so many defeats. Newcastle previously 1-0. Just the odd goal. It's just just even not starting quickly enough, or getting back on in level terms and not capitalizing. Just situations like that, and moving into kind of that end of season feel to the league. The April to May sort of time. It was again 2 wins that we managed in that whole time period, which were against Norwich and Burnley, and 3 draws. And I'm looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4 defeats. Kev, it was just the season just petered out when it really shouldn't have, to be honest with you.
It was rubbish, wasn't it? It was just rubbish. I remember thinking during the end of that season, right, if we can just, oh my God, we've not managed to beat Leicester. We should have won that game. We beat Norwich, Burnley, brilliant. Right, we need a result against. Oh, we've got Palace and Burnley coming up. Maybe Man City we won't get a win. Maybe Liverpool we won't. But if we can just get a win against Palace and Burnley, and they're both home games, it was this real feeling we'd finish in the top 10. And both games were just so disappointing. A couple of 1-1 draws at home, and obviously there was that spell, wasn't it? For 70-odd minutes of the game, the Etihad, where we thought we were in dreamland. Classic Villa. I don't know why anybody else was worried. Any Man City fans were worried, but yeah, it was just so disappointing, because I think it shows a massive thing for us is our inability to get over the line in games, or to get winning games. And we know we're not very good when we go behind. But when you look at all those goals, so losing games by the odd goal, that shows for me a fragility of ability and character. Because really, with the quality of players we had in the squad against the opposition we were playing, we should have got a lot more points than we did in that time.
100%. And George, I mean, was it look, obviously hindsight is 2020, but were there signs during that end of season kind of malaise, where we just sort of saw the season out? Were there signs there that you that were kind of forebearers for what was to come? And at the start of this season, obviously now we know Gerrard's gone, but did you see the signs of that happening in that kind of end of season to 21-22?
I think you'd have to say yes. I mean, we probably didn't want to admit it at the time, but everything you just said then, Kev, just that fragility, and it used to just really frustrate me the way we just sack a game off if we didn't fancy it. It's like, oh, it ain't going to be our game today, or a decision goes against us, and it's just like we just were too easy to beat and didn't have enough spirit and determination to try and get back into games. And and I remember so I know you're doing this chronologically last year, but I remember after the first sort of 3 or 4 months of the season, we played all our tough away games already. Yeah. And we were still within sort of touching distance of getting up to where we want. And then, and just somehow it just never materialised after Christmas. So many wasted games, everything we just said. All the big teams come to Villa Park, sort of nicked it by the odd goal, didn't they? And we never really took our opportunities at any time last season. Loads of little false dawns, wasn't there?
I think it's a real theme as well, isn't it? And I know, by the way, every club will probably feel the same, because going up the league in football, to go up the table, you need to get momentum, or you need to get wins, consistent wins, and not lose. But if you look at what Newcastle have done, and it pains me to keep doing the comparisons, but even going back to that COVID season when we won the first 4 games of the season, I mean, we were in absolute dreamland, and yet we never really kicked on. From 4 wins to losing 3-0 at home to Leeds. And it just seems like classic Villa when you think that, it's going to be going particularly well. And absolutely with the signings that we made in January to then kick on to the summer, which I'm sure you'll cover in a minute, Rich, with the signings we made then, we should have been all hoping that we would have had, a better start to the season. Admittedly, listen, I think we've said a few times that we felt we could have had bigger signings and better signings and more exciting acquisitions, but we should still have been going upwards. We were going backwards. We were stagnating. We didn't kick on. It's such a surprise what happened after that Man City game until Emery came in, which I'm sure you'll cover now, Rich.
Yeah. And obviously Rachel had said that she couldn't wait for the season to be over at that stage, and I think that's how we felt. That those draws against Palace and Burnley really cemented that. And going into that pre-season, it was, like you say, it was one of those where, because we couldn't wait for that season to end, and because of the promise that we'd been sort of anticipating with the signings that were made in January, them bedding in, getting some fitness behind them, the new signings that would come in, and that was then matched by the bullish talk of Gerrard in that pre-season period. There was nothing more than optimism, George. Like, there was nothing else to expect than optimism, was there? Like, what more could we have been given? Because they'd talked about getting these new players in. They'd done their business early with Carlos and Kamara. I've got a picture of him injured here, sorry, but with those particular signings, I mean, we were pretty much again we've won the transfer window.
We were, but I don't know. We never seem to quite learn a lesson, do we? We'll probably do the same this year. I guess, I suppose you're right. And also, Gerrard, let's face it now, looking back on the Gerrard era, he was a good salesman, wasn't he? He knew how to sell the dream to us fans. I mean, he talked a really good game. And you couldn't really help but get excited by everything he had to say. The signings on paper look good, but, you lost Carlos after like 2 or 3 games. And, and if the season just didn't really sort of get off to the start we wanted after that. And again, just sunk into that classic Villa malaise.
Yeah. And Kev, like, I know you were kind of, I mean, I was getting quite excited about pre-season and the results. I know you and Sam were kind of keeping the feet on the ground, and ultimately that proved to be correct. But the results in pre-season, like, if you look purely at the results, they were pretty positive.
Yeah, that was a classic situation though, when, like, it all you've got this instinct, haven't you? That's something. Well, for me, I had this instinct, so it wasn't quite right. Gerrard was a good salesman. He told us about, get to the summer, give me a summer over and over again, get my signings in. I did feel like we needed more signings. I did feel like we were light in attack, forward and wide positions, and maybe a number 8. But the club seem to know what they're doing, and maybe we'll get someone. Maybe they've got someone lined up, and you start to make excuses, don't you? Do you know what I mean? Like, like you're getting, whether it's like with work colleagues or personal relationships, you make excuses for people. Well, I was doing that for Villa and for Steven Gerrard. They're probably waiting for a big club to make a signing, for them to let someone go, for us to be able to get that player we want to bring in. That'll be all right. We've got weeks left in the transfer window, and we've just signed Kamara on a free. Carlos was for whatever that was, 17 million, whatever, or maybe that was Coutinho as well. Brilliant. We've shipped a few out. It's all going upwards. We've just beat Leeds. We've just beat Brisbane Roar. We've just beat Stade Rennais. Good comeback against Man United. But watching as many of those games as I did, I probably saw about 75% of all the pre-season fixtures. I was very unconvinced about the way we were playing, the style of play. I feel like Villa as a team in the last year or so, it's been, well, they've got Louise and McGinn and Watkins and Ings, and they're decent players. But what do? Where's the cohesiveness as a team? Where's the threat offensively, and where's the strength defensively, and where's the creativity and strength in the midfield? And that Bournemouth game, I mean, when Rachel said she couldn't wait for the season to be over, I was wondering if she meant after the first game of this season, because that Bournemouth game was, I mean, talk about going from the heights to the lows. You know, it's all going to be great. It's all brilliant. The project's good. Let's forget Critchley's passport situation and Beale's left us. Let's just forget. It's like a siege mentality.
Let's forget the McGinn Mings captaincy
Yeah.
incident. Yeah.
It's all going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. Vitality Stadium, is it still called? I don't know what it's called, right? All of a sudden,
Yeah.
bang, 2-0, went in it.
Oh, yeah, George.
Shit.
I mean, that just brought all of those issues to the fore, didn't it? Because he tried to brush all those things under the carpet, and you think, had that win have come against Bournemouth, it would probably have just been like putting a plaster over a massive like gash, but at least it would have been a win. But unfortunately, we lost, and everything was just exposed then.
Yeah, he was on borrowed time the second the final whistle went that day, really. I mean, like you say, it was the whole feel-good thing just sort of, it died there and then, didn't it, on a nice sunny day on the South Coast. You know, we were just exposed and looked sluggish and lazy. The new players didn't look like up to speed. And you just thought, I've fallen for it again, and why do I do it to myself? You know what I mean? We're still no further on, even after spending another load of money. And it's just going to be the same old shit again. And I just think the knives were kind of coming out for him at that stage, and it would have took a lot for Gerrard, I think, to get us all back on the right sort of right trajectory again. And I don't think he ever did get there.
No, and obviously, picture of him there looking very stern, and that was the kind of image of him throughout that time. I know August, we talked August, September here. He wasn't quite gone at that point, but I just think that stubbornness, Kev, and obviously the tactics during the games, but that stubbornness to not kind of, whether it be admit that he'd kind of made a mistake with Mings and McGinn, or the continuous of playing Coutinho constantly, and maybe falling out with the likes of Leon Bailey. He just couldn't wrestle that control that he wanted back on the side, could he?
No, he couldn't. And it was clear as well by, not even just that Bournemouth game, but the games that followed it. I mean, the Everton win was one of the most uninspiring wins I've seen. It was not a great performance at all. We were clinging on at the end against a terrible Everton team, as bad as I'd seen that in Villa for ages. And then we got smashed by Palace. We were lucky to get a 3-1. Then we were 1-0 down against Bolton in the League Cup, and obviously managed to get the win in the end. And it just felt like, we've talked about that word a lot, identity, but the players weren't playing for each other. They certainly weren't playing for Gerrard. And was it about control? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the workings, at high levels in football clubs. I don't know the inner sort of machinery of it, but it was crying out for us to make better signings. And I don't know, you can believe all sorts of theories. Was it that Gerrard wasn't allowed to make certain signings? Did he block the Sarr transfer? Did he want? I don't. Who knows? But I think we went into that season and we were putting our fingers in our ears. That emoji. Because if you think that you let Traore go, you let El Ghazi go, you let Trezeguet go, and
all the winners, wasn't it, mate?
Yeah, you bring in no one in an attacking sense other than Coutinho. I mean, was it anyone? we were getting all our hopes then on Cameron Archer being the great hope, but we brought no one in from an attacking sense.
No.
What are you expecting to happen? That Watkins is going to catch fire all of a sudden? He wasn't playing Ings. I mean, I don't know what we were expecting to happen, and we got what we deserved, I think.
Do you know what I think, Kev? I think we were sort of forced to buy into this. We're going to play with the high fullbacks. That's what Liverpool do. Liverpool are really good at it. Rangers were good at it. And I think if we'd have looked at it logically, how many goals was Luca Dean and Matty Cash really going to score? Were they ever going to start contributing the amount of goals that we got from the players that left, like you mentioned? And I think, again, we were just duped, mate, or we had no choice but to go along with it.
Yeah, and also, listen, I was really excited about the Dean sign, and I think he's a decent player. But has he lived up to the expectations? No. Did he in his last few months at Everton? No. Is Cash good enough for a top 10 Premier League team? I don't know. I mean, I like Cash. I like his industry, like McGinn, but is the quality there? His final ball's not great. If we were holding our hopes that they were going to be our Robertson and
Timon said she'd love a tell-all couple of years from now from one of the players like the Martin O'Neill era. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there'd be some stories in the dressing room for a memoir later on in the years about what happened, towards the end of Gerrard's reign. I was gonna say as well. Obviously, those games, we managed to kind of stem the flow a tiny bit with that draw against Man City. Like, you mentioned an uninspiring win against Everton, Kev, but the win against Southampton was probably one of the worst games that that we could ever pay to watch. And then, but again, it was kind of clinging on to false hope, even moving into the kind of early October time, with regards to the two draws, the Forest draw and the Leeds draw. It was just clinging on to false hope, really, wasn't it?
It was just shit, mate. It really was. It was false hope, absolutely. I mean, you're right that we got that. I mean, the performance we got all excited about as a fan base, because we didn't have much else to go on, was drawing 1-1 against Man City and Coutinho having a goal chalked off at the end, which should have been a goal, but then would the keeper have saved it? Who knows? The point is that after playing quite a few league games, we had literally nothing to go on. Terrible, terrible game against Southampton, but we got the win. This is now when we can rise up the league. We've got Leeds and Forest next, no worries. Went Leeds down to 10 men and we couldn't beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
at that time we started hanging on, and I was guilty of this. We started thinking, right, we're becoming more solid, and we're not conceding.
Yes,
and
I said the same
more
thing.
Streetwise, but the quality didn't follow, unfortunately. Sorry to jump in, mate.
No, it's
no.
We were away. We were away at the City Ground, Forest. I was thinking, this is nice. I've never been to Forest away. Walking past the Cluffy's Cob shop and getting all nostalgic about it. But Forest aren't great, are they? We're Aston Villa. We're going to smash them. And a very, very, very boring 1-1 draw. Looked like we could have played that game for about another 3 months, right? And we wouldn't have scored a goal in the second half. And then it wasn't long until until Gerrard got put out of his misery. Was it really after that defeated Fulham? I think we had obviously had the Leeds draw and the Forest draw, didn't we? And I think it was long after that. Was it? It was a Chelsea defeat.
Chelsea defeat, yeah, and then Fulham was the crowning glory, and I believe you were there, George.
Yeah, bad night, mate. And I'll tell you, I've had a few at Fulham over the years, but yeah, we were so crap that night. It was just it was just one of them sort of when everything falls in on you at the same time. We had a sending off, didn't we? An own goal. It was just a disaster. The players they just weren't having it. Like I said earlier about not having any spirit. The second we went 1-0 down, it was like, oh, do you know what, lads? Fuck it, we ain't going to win tonight. Should we just, we'll just have a night off? And
George,
it all went down the pan.
George, being there, because obviously you were at that game, and that was it felt like from watching on telly, like the toxicity was unbelievable, really. Hearing some of the chants in the ground, do you feel like the players deliberately down tools? Do you think the moment was just too much for them and they got overwhelmed?
I think they were playing until, like I just said, until they conceded. Once they conceded, heads dropped, the crowd turned, and they turned on Gerrard. And I think the players just thought, we got a free pass tonight. Let's just have an easy night and we'll go home. But do you know what? In all my times, I've seen a lot of bad times at Villa with the fans and the disconnect between the players and the club. But that was really, really horrible, and I felt quite uncomfortable. I mean, obviously, I wasn't a fan of what Gerrard was doing, but I don't think he really deserved the that to be his sort of way of walking out of the club. Getting chanted at. You slipped on your arse, and and I don't know. I just wasn't comfortable with it. But at the end of the day, he got the sack, and I guess we just might have hurried up the process a little bit.
I think for me, it was surely there has to be a level of respect and decorum that a fan base should have, but. I don't think I don't think he really endeared himself to the fan base. There was plenty of times before that when he wasn't even acknowledging the fan base after, even wins sometimes, let alone losses. And I think, with what happened with Mings and McGinn, and particularly the expectation. I mean, we were, as a fan base, we were the equivalent of being in a relationship when you're told you've got steak and chips when you get home and you're getting a pot noodle every night, consistently every week. Like we're told it's going to be amazing and it's been terrible. We're told it's going to be better. It's been terrible. So did he deserve that? I don't know. I mean, it's football's football. And to be fair, Liverpool fans got their own back, didn't they, at the weekend when I was singing his song loud and proud, 3-1 up with a few minutes to go. But yeah, I just think it was one of those things inevitably, really, where he needed to be put out of his misery. We needed to be put out of our misery to move on, and it should have really have happened before. I think that that decision should have been made before that to maybe not get to that point.
Yeah, well, 20th of October, 2022 was when he was finally relieved of his duties, and then we then play Brentford on, I believe it was the 23rd, and absolutely within what was it? Within 10 minutes, we were 3-0 up,
3-0 up.
and you're just thinking, what is going on here? And I know quite a few pundits were like, that was out of order on Gerrard, maybe because of the respect that he carries across the game, but it probably just showed you the cloud that was hanging over the club, George, for that turnaround to happen so quickly in such a short space of time. The way the goals were scored as well, one off a quickly worked set piece, Leon Bailey running at defenders, and kind of the shackles seemed to be off, and yeah, it was another victory where, similar to that Southampton game, where you're thinking, we've got a new era here, we've got a new dawn.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Actually, you took the words out of my mouth. It did remind me of
mate.
the Southampton game. But again, yeah, I was at that game and I was sitting there thinking, am I really watching the same team that I watched on the Tuesday night? It was just complete night and day between them. I just think it was, it was just a manager coming in, a caretaker, who just thought, you know what, okay, this could be my only chance. I'm just going to do what I want today. I'm going to set the team up how I want. And I just think it was the players played with a bit of freedom. It was as if there wasn't no pressure. We hadn't just lost 4 games on the bounce or whatever it was. We opened up the pitch, used our pace, used our width, like Villa, the traditional Villa way, if ever there was one. And yeah, it was an absolute joy to watch. It was great performance. And Brentford were dead and buried in 10 minutes. And I remember all the fans around me just going, "Are we at the right game here?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and then to go from that game, Kev, I think Emery was announced he was coming the 24th. I think it was the day after that game. So again, massive optimism about the club. He couldn't start until the 1st of November. But yeah, sum up your thoughts. I know we did a couple of really good podcasts with regards to kind of Emery coming in that were really well received. But your thoughts on the signing of Emery, coming into Villa?
I think it was as good as we could have hoped for, really. We had talk of Pochettino, which I know particularly me and Sam were really waxing lyrical about, why not? And obviously there was rumours of Tuchel who was available, but a lot of Villa fans were, I think, being a bit defeatist. It does annoy me somewhat. I'm all about realism. I'm all about, being, sort of like, not getting too many delusions of grandeur. But we are a massive draw, even just from the ownership alone, let alone our history, the pockets that the owners have got, the ambition that the owners have got, and obviously the history, the club, the city, everything it's prime for success. So I think that getting a manager of Emery's stature was good to sort of say to some of the naysayers, hang on a minute, we do mean business, because he wouldn't go to anybody, with his track record. He was reigning Europa League champion. And we've obviously done this to death in terms of, his pedigree, but, 4 Europa League wins. Even the points haul he got at Arsenal was the best I've had in any season since Wenger. So, he's talked about not being a success, but it was just, it was a real bit of good news. And it also felt like it would be a manager different to Gerrard, who would be a bit more personable and be a bit more detail driven. And as you can see, even on the touchline, like be a bit more passionate. And I think the fans want that sense that the manager cares and is involved. And he's sort of, heading every ball with it. For a manager like Gerrard was so passionate on the pitch and so dedicated and, getting into every tackle, to see what he was like on the touchline, it didn't seem to fit for me. And I think that almost like resonated with some of the players sometimes. So yeah, the Emery appointment was hugely exciting. It, obviously, as we've said a few times, there just needs to be patience with that now, but decent signs so far.
Yeah, and John's commented there, we need to start thinking like a big club, and Emery is the start. And I know you've talked about where we are as a club, George, and how we should think and where we should set our sights. And hopefully that kind of manager with the pedigree, not necessarily the big name like a Gerrard. We've gone down that route and that didn't work, but hopefully a manager with the pedigree and with the coaching nous will hopefully bring that about. But as Kev said, the patience is the key word here for Villa fans, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with Kev on Emery. Like I think he was about the top level that we could attract. And fair play, they went out and done it, didn't they? They got it done. Showed we have got the clout, like you said, Kev. I wasn't sure what we could achieve or what we could attract, but we did. We went out and got him. And hopefully the future's bright now. But as for patience, we've been shit for long enough. So what's another couple of years going to hurt?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, by the way, that John Steele makes there about thinking like a big club, because there's a great quote from I don't know if anyone's seen the film Boiler Room about like dodgy sales tactics, like stocks and shares.
Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, Vin Diesel, Giovanni Ribisi. But there's a great scene where Ben Affleck's like this real brash, arrogant, like owns the business basically in the boardroom, and he says to all the traders, I've got a little phrase for you: act as if you're the president of this firm. Act as if you've got a 9-inch penis. Act as if. But it's classic, isn't it? If you don't believe that you're going to be big and good, then who else is going to believe it? There's so many quotes around that around belief. Muhammad Ali, convinced everyone he was the greatest, but you had to believe it. And if you go into a game, look at Newcastle at the moment. Look at the momentum they've got. Look at Leicester on that title-winning season. It was belief, it was passion, it was positivity, but it was like a train. And you've got to believe that we belong at this club. We've been in the doldrums for a little bit of time, but still probably top 6-7 point scorers in the history of the top division. One of the top ranked teams in terms of trophies. But it was hundreds of years ago, so what still counts. And we're prime now for that next level. But if we don't believe it at the top of the club, we're never going to get there. And the problem was, I think, going back to that Gerrard era, was we talked a great game, but it didn't feel like we believed it with our actions, with the signings that we made, with the tactics, with the way we played. Well, then the fans didn't believe it. So, the fans are quiet. The fans are quiet. Well, the fans are quiet because of some of the tripe that you serve it up on the pitch. If we can get it going, if we can get a couple of signings in, there's a few exciting names being linked. I'm really hopeful of a positive end to this season and a positive future.
Yeah, well, I mean, talk about belief. I don't think Emery. We'll skip over the Newcastle game. I don't want to talk too much about that. But
just a polar opposite to Brentford, wasn't it?
Yeah. Talking about belief, you couldn't have got the Emery era off to a better start than beating Man United at home for the first time since 1996. Or 1995, 95-96 season. So if that doesn't fill you with heart and fill you with belief, George, I don't know what will.
No, exactly. That was if you're looking for highlights of 2022, I think that was the outstanding one, wasn't it? I mean, what a great day, and we've waited so long for it, and I mean, God, yeah, great performance on the day, smashed Man United to bits. And the future was bright. We're winning the league after that, weren't we?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of Villa fans, and then particularly moving into the Carabao Cup game against United, but then also the league win against Brighton, we saw the kind of tactics, the adaptability, the way that players are having to do different things within the game, Kev. And again, that Brighton win was a slightly different win, but still very effective, and gave fans that belief again, because we came back from a losing position.
Yeah, it was. There's little things that have happened, haven't they, in the Emery era so far? The Man United one being a huge theme, because it's been such a monkey on our back that at times over the years, even when we've been in the Championship for 3 seasons, we've been in the Premier League for 24 out of the last 27 seasons. We've not managed to get a home win against Man United, who've not been anywhere near the Man United of old for about 10 years. It's just embarrassing, and it becomes that monkey gets heavier and heavier on your back. So to get that over the line, then to show some quite exciting, different football in the Man United Carabao Cup game, admittedly losing, and then to go behind at Brighton, and we're all thinking the same. Villa don't come back from losing positions, But also, Brighton don't lose from winning positions because there was a stat about the previous 20 games before, and we bucked the trend. So you've got to look at it and think, real positive shoots, positive signs. That's the kind of stuff that builds belief. A lot of belief is built on your skills, your experience, but it's your past success. You believe you've done it before, you can do it again. And I think these little things now, hopefully, can really help the players believe when they go into big games or when they go into losing positions that all is not lost.
Yeah, definitely. Good way to put it. Before I give you some stats and ask for your kind of player of 2022, and then guys watching, if you want to give your opinions in the comments about your player for 2022, I'm not sure if it's fairly slim pickings, I would imagine. But we had news about the ground, and obviously off the field, and I know Kev, you touched on the women's side. And in terms of off the pitch, pictures here of the concept of the new ground. It all seems to be moving in that right direction. First of all, George, that is exciting. The women's team, the new ground, the area surrounding Villa Park being redeveloped. That is good signs, isn't it? That is positive signs.
Oh, 100%. I think it can only be good, for Aston's probably not, not the most glamorous area around, is it? And I think the whole ground is looking quite dated now, as classic as it is. And I love Villa Park as much as the next guy, but I think we needed a bit of modernisation and we're knocking it up to what, 50,000 now. This for the first time in my time of going. We used to struggle to fill the ground as it was, and then all of a sudden, I think from the Dean Smith era, we've suddenly we've got 10, 15, 20,000 people on a waiting list. Mm-hmm. So if you don't do this now, when are you ever going to do it? It's a proactive move from the club, and and it's hoping to knock us up into the next level. All the Villa Live and all the stuff they're going to do behind the stands. It all looks really promising, and I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, definitely. But Kev, obviously that's tempered by the fact that we've got to produce on the pitch.
Yeah. Absolutely. The one thing, we've to add to that recent years, obviously the youth teams, obviously we had the FA Youth Cup win. We've signed some pretty hot prospects from Europe, the likes of Rory Wilson, and before that, obviously getting Lou Barry in, etc., etc. The women's teams, they've dropped a little bit. I think they've got, three losses out of the last 5, but there've been some really great signs considering the team have been, fighting relegation the last few years. The ground news. I mean, looking at the video that they put together, the CGI of it, it looks as if it's
great, doesn't it?
Yeah, like when you get to Wembley Park Stadium, when you get to Wembley. I mean, for Villa fans, obviously, when we go to Wembley, when we go to see gigs, don't we? Go and see England. Yeah, great stuff. Wembley, yeah, that's that. When you walk down straight walkway through, it looks like they're doing some. It must be a massive job, because there's no direct walkway from Whitton Station now to Villa Park. So whether they're knocking houses down, I don't know what they're doing, but it'll make it so much more welcoming, so much more accessible, which is great. But there's no point doing that if you're just fighting relegation or fighting against the likes of Hull and I don't know, Preston to get out of the Championship. So it's just absolutely essential now, and it feels to me like we can't not be successful, because if they're prepared to spend the money and they've got the right kind of coach, then it's I know this is a bit of an oxymoron, a bit of a big word that for me to use, sorry. But, it's kind of impossible, because...
Don't say it, Kev. You're a Villa fan, mate. Come on.
No, but like Unai Emery,
I know. I want to believe you. I want to be with you.
Owners, 50,000 seat stadium, some hot prospects coming through. Surely, I'm not saying we're going to win the league, but surely we can establish ourselves in the top 10 out of the league. Surely.
Yeah, we'll see. Stop calling me Shirley. Yeah. There's always a classic one there.
Very good.
But yeah, so obviously going into some statistics, I mean, massively exciting times for Villa, and like I say, we've got to match it on the pitch, and it always does add that little bit of pressure to kind of perform when you do make these announcements that you're expanding the ground and doing all that. I mean, it's a great challenge, don't get me wrong. I think West Ham had a similar situation where they kind of announced they were moving to the Olympic Stadium and all that, and then they nearly went down, and then they got into Europe, and now they're struggling a little bit, but they're still in Europe. So we hopefully the players can really rise to this challenge of filling that stadium and playing in front of those crowds of over 50,000, because it'll be absolutely incredible. But moving into some statistics for 2022, who would you say? First of all, sorry, how many points would you say we achieved across 2022?
Oh God, that's a question, isn't it? How many games is that out of?
Oh, that's a good question. Just give me a second. I will tell you how many games that is.
George, what you have for dinner, George? What you have for dinner?
Enchiladas, really
Enchiladas?
nice. Yeah,
Good.
the missus is nailing them, mate. Really good.
36 games, I believe.
I'm rich talking about enchiladas here. Feliz Navidad. No, sorry. 36 games, so a possible, what's that, 108 points, is it?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say that, yeah.
Was it 100, was it 106? No. 40?
That's not bad. That is not bad. And before I reveal that, who would you say our top scorer across 2022 was?
In the men's first team?
In Premier League, yeah, in the men's first team. Yeah, not Rachel Daly. She probably overtaken all of them.
I was going to go Daly. I would say it's Danny Ings. What would you say, George?
Points wise, I reckon probably a little bit less than what you said. I reckon maybe 38 points, and the scorer, I don't know, maybe Ramsey, possibly.
Well, let us know in the comments. I'll reveal shortly. While you give your guesses in the comments, please do make sure you give the video a like, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're new to watching the Villa Park podcast, the most underrated Villa podcast out there. So yeah, please do make sure you subscribe, and yeah, get your comments in. How many points did we finish on in 2022, and who was your top scorer? Who do you think was the top scorer across the calendar year 2022 in the Premier League? Lads, just before we reveal the stats, how have you enjoyed kind of the live shows with Villa Park podcast over this year? Like, I know, George, we were working with World of Sport, and then we went by ourselves from August. I mean, the support has been fantastic, hasn't it, since we started off by ourselves from August?
Is that for me? Sorry, yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, no, it's great times. I remember like when me and Sam come on, just trying to help you out because Rich B got a bit busy in life, didn't he? And we just volunteered to come and help. And it just seemed like a bit of a crack. But as we've gone on, you can just tell by the amount of interaction and comments we get. It feels like we've got a good little following now. And I always look forward to doing these. And with all the 6 or 7 of us that come on, I think we all got our own little style of on the show. And I think we do all right.
Good.
Especially yourself, Rich, cracking host.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. And Kev, how much have you enjoyed since you joined up with the show? From when we went live of our own channel.
Well, I've probably been on it about a year now, so probably 2022. Maybe I'm the problem.
No, never.
You know that Ava Max song. God, I'm 40.
Oh yeah, you were on before that, because I remember you had to join in with those Newcastle fans, didn't you?
Yeah. Slightly, yeah. Yeah, you know that Ava Max song. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe it's me, because since I've been involved. No, that can I just say that for those that probably don't know, but I went on with Rich to a Newcastle podcast after they beat us, and it was like just listening to these Newcastle fans talking about how brilliant Newcastle are. And there was 5 of us on there, so I probably spoke for about, I don't know, 2 minutes in total across an hour. I'm just thinking, get me off this show, because there's nothing worse than a really happy Newcastle fan, because they get very excited. I mean, fair play to them. But so no, it's been an absolute pleasure for me. I've had a bit interesting year. Personally, separated, got 2 kids. It's been a great sort of escape for me to do it, and it's brilliant to see some of the great names and the similar names that come up week in, week out. Some real characters. It's great to get that following. And look, I do think you call it quite nicely, which I think we're probably pretty underrated. But I think we're all pretty honest, aren't we? And if we can take it further and bigger, then that would be fantastic. So yeah, please do share. But we really, really appreciate any comments, any support. And do you know what? It's just great to talk about the Villa to people that care, That shares
Absolutely.
the same kind of.
It's good for me because there isn't many of us down there, so it is a proper release for me. If I just want to rant, it's great to chat to you boys and get it off our chest.
Exactly. So yeah, we're getting loads of comments in for people's top players of 2022. So we'll get on that in a second. But yeah, in terms of statistics, let me just get rid of that banner. So we across 2022 we've won 11. This is Premier League, won 11, drawn 8, and lost 17. 41 points across 2022, and then our top scorers for the year have been Ings and Watkins joint on 9, and then Coutinho with 5, Ramsey with 6, and Emi Buendia with 4. So yeah, pretty sorry state of affairs, lads, to be honest.
Yeah, we just lose too many games. Simple as that. We've been saying that for the last couple of years. Even if you could add a few more draws in there, it wouldn't look so bad. But 17 defeats in a calendar year is poor, really, mate.
Poor. And that points all really is it's relegation form, isn't it? Really. It's close.
Just above.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had there not been so many worse teams than us in the league, we probably would have been talking, real struggle, and it just shows you the inconsistency and that lack of character, that lack of steel that we've talked about across this podcast as well as other episodes. So, lads, who would be your? I'll go to you first, Kev. Who would be your? I know a lot of people are talking top 3s here, but yeah, who would be your players of 2022? Let's try and pick a top 3.
Got to be Rachel Daly, hasn't it? It's got to be Rachel Daly.
yeah, absolutely. Probably Rachel Daly, Kenzie Darley, and Alicia Lehman. Yeah.
Pacheco's good as well. I am. This is a really hard question, and this when you click the podcast, click this bit when I finally stop introducing my own point, right, and send it to the Villa because it sums it up. The fact that we can't, as Villa lovers, easily name a top. I can't even easily name a top 3. So you can make an argument for a few, but it wouldn't be a strong argument. JJ massively tailed off. I think he was great if he was talking the first half of the season, but he's massively tailed off since then, as has obviously Coutinho. Watkins has been poor this year, I think. Ings is actually top scorer when he's hardly had a chance. Mings obviously had his struggles and has been, mistaken him, but I think it's probably been our best player this season. I'd say probably is Mings. So I don't know, Martin. I think Martinez has dropped off. Rich, I hate people don't have an opinion, but I'm sorry. Rachel Daly's my answer. I can't. There's no one stands out for me, and no one stands out for me at all.
George?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I was trying to use that bit of time there when Kev was chatting to try and get my 3 in. I think Tyrone Mings, like you said, because I think all the trouble at the start of the season with Gerrard. Gerrard actually, to his credit, did say, I think taking the captaincy off Tyrone will improve his game, and I think it did. So I actually think he's improved right on that one. It may have cost him his own job, but I think Mings has done all right. But anyone else I'm looking for, like you said, Ramsey did well, breakthrough season, scored 6 goals last year. But, it doesn't quite look at it so far this year, bar a few games. And then where are you looking after that? I mean, are we looking at the goalie? He hasn't been the keeper we first signed, but let's face it, he's still pretty decent, isn't he? Martinez, he doesn't throw too many in. Otherwise, it's just been flashes. You're looking at 4 or 5 games for Coutinho when he came. Leon Bailey this season's lit it up 2 or 3 times, but where else are we looking? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll go through some of the comments. So John said, controversial as it is, my top 3 are Martinez, Ramsey, and Mings.
Probably right.
Ryan, thanks for tuning in, mate. UTV podcast, another great podcast out there. Top 3 are Ramsey, Cash, and Louise. I still struggle with Louise myself. I just find him so casual. I just think I think he needs shaking. Do you know what I mean? I think he just needs shaking because there's a player in there, but when he wants to.
I think it looked better since Kamara signed.
He has, but then I think he reverted. I think he reverted back to the old Louise on Boxing Day. Yeah. Just a casual, just playing it back to the back 4, not really incisive. Yeah, I just think there's so much more in him that he doesn't bring out.
There's just a huge lack of consistency across the board, which is why you could make a half-hearted argument for about 7 or 8 players. Because there's times when Luiz has been brilliant. I think he's been an absolute class act. Ramsey's shown real glimpses at times, in terms of his obviously short career he's had with us injury-wise. JJ's been driving an Augusto, and I think there's, as Rachel says there. But
do you know what? Ashley Young wouldn't be far away, actually.
You know what? Ashley
he was going to be mine. He was going to be mine. I would have said Ashley Young for his age, for his the level of expectation that we set of how much time he would play. I think it's pretty much Ashley Young. Like I say, I think Ramsey's done well at certain times, but there's been such a lack of consistency. I think you'd probably say Young and Mings.
I'm gonna get off the fence now, Richard, actually, and say Ashley Young. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Big T in the house. My top 3 would be Martinez, Ramsey, and Watkins. Ramsey is a relative of my partner. My main one I would give to Watkins. His work rate and yard coverages are meant for someone so young. Yeah, I just think Watkins is more. There's more to come, and I don't. Well, actually, is there more to come? Like, has he hit his ceiling?
He's not that young. He's
that's
like 27, isn't
he? Yeah, and he's not that young now. That's the point.
I don't think, unfortunately, there is more to come. And again, Watkins, when he signed, the all action attitude that he had. He was, as Dean Smith used to say, one of the best pressing centre forward in the league. We're talking 3 seasons ago now. He'll be 27 on the 30th of December, so he's nearly 27. And I wonder, is he going to get any better at finishing? I'd love to think he is, because there's a lot about him that I like as a player and as a character. But we need to get the ball in the net more. And 9 goals for him and 9 goals for Ings. And Ings, he's not played that much. Well, maybe the stats he's played more than I think he has, but he's just not good enough.
Yeah, agreed. Who else have we got in here? Tiwan had said top 3 are Kamara, Bailey, and Louise, and I think they're the kind of standout point there with Kamara is that he only signed in August.
That's what and
he's missed quite a few games with injury, and he's still one of our standout performers. I mean, that just shows you how bad the other players have been.
I think there's more growth in Kamara though than anyone else in our squad. He's the one that's really going to excel, isn't he?
You can see the quality.
Yeah.
And Joe there saying no, is no one going to mention Ashley Young, and he was T1's breakthrough player. Yeah, I think. I think Ashley Young's been great, and it's just so refreshing to see the attitude that he's got, the professionalism that he's got. The fact that he's a winner, he's been there and done it. I think it's just vital for our team, because we've got such a lack of experience, such a lack of character that we really, really need. Big T's there saying Emery will sort it out. If not, we need to get someone else in. Well, let's not say that now. And we need a Daly and Atkinson back, or a Dwight York. I mean, what would we give for a player with this abilities of Daly or Dwight, boys?
I'm going to be controversial here, right? But Daly was always pretty disappointing for me. He had flashes of brilliance, but I think he was inconsistent as the rest of them. Dwight York, maybe, I think absolutely was an absolute class act. But Daniel Atkinson was very hit and miss, scored some beautiful goals, but went missing a lot of times, didn't he?
Yeah, that 92-93 season.
Yeah,
he was unreal. But I think I take your point, but like a legend nonetheless. I guess what would be your before we finish up, what would be kind of your hope for 2023, Kev, in terms of Villa moving forward?
Well, my hope for 2023 is that, as we talked about the year and obviously the year doing the podcast, and George said, when he wants to rant, he hasn't got many fans down there of the Villa persuasion, so he can rant to us. I just hope we're not having to rant too much. That's my hope for 2023. That there's a lot more, there's a lot more moments when, even if we do lose games, we lose games with our heads held high, and we can see that things are moving forward. It'd be easy to talk about ambitions and aims, but do you know what? I'd like us to have a cup run this season in the FA Cup. It'd just be great to get to Wembley, get to a semi-final. I'd like us to be in a situation where we start to score goals a bit more consistently and don't concede, solidifying defence and strengthening attack and really kick on for that top 10. I don't want to get my expectations too much higher than that.
Yeah, couple of comments coming in. Tijuana said she thinks the owners had a meeting with the players and let them know that they're willing to clean the players out and get new players before they let Emery go. So they need to now prove their worth. And we commented on that the other night, Kev, where we thought pretty much all players are on trial at the moment. And I guess that's going to be the case for a long time. Martin, and the pod presenter couldn't make it tonight, but as is what he's watching, said getting a striker that takes his chances in 2023 would be nice. Tieman's commented, I hope we get Thuram as a striker. I like how he looks. George, any hopes for you for 2023 from a Villa perspective?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I just want to see the group of players we've got now just stop talking the talk all the time, pre-game, press. I know they've got to do what they've got to do, but start delivering, start doing what you say you're going to do. I'm sick of the Monday bit on Facebook. Another frustrating defeat. We slipped to another disappointing day at Villa Park. These players, are they as good as we think they are, or are they having us on? I just want to see them stand up, mate. And I don't expect miracles, but we've said all along for the last 2 years, maybe we think we've got a top 10 side. Over the 2 years, I've started to doubt that and thought maybe am I just fooling myself? Maybe they're not so good. But I think we're capable. You get in that top 10, mate, and I'd be satisfied myself this season, and hopefully push on after that.
Yeah, well, John's echoed your points there, George. Top half this season and rebuild in the summer. Make no mistake, we have a great coach. Yeah, and Big T agrees with you. Talk is cheap. Actions work wonders, especially with us fans. And Martin's agreeing with you again. Talk the talk, but not walk the walk. And I think that's probably the enduring factor there. We've got to start believing. We've got to start, showing it on the pitch. Like to say, they all do the marketing. They all do the kind of training picks. Watkins is pinging it in the top corner. Coutinho's pinging free kicks in. And then when it comes to the Saturday or the Sunday, the Monday, it's nowhere to be seen. It's like just start doing it on the pitch and just start putting those building blocks into place. And then we us as fans will go along for the ride. We'll absolutely love it. So I think for me, a cup run would be fantastic to get some feel good factor into the club and some hope. And I think take those really, really seriously. Make the right type of signings. We've been talking about a big, physical, powerful striker, a big, physical, powerful midfielder, a fast winger, get some pace in the team, get some physicality in the team. And I think we won't be far off because we lose too many midfield battles and we don't impose ourselves on games enough. You look at Newcastle, they're just so imposing, like Joe Linton, Bruno, and they're so quick at winning the ball back, and that's what's going to propel them. I honestly think they're a real title challenge, and that is from being bottom of the league this time last year. And what's to say that a couple of good signings in the right positions couldn't turn that around for us. A signing that maybe people wouldn't expect us to make. I know we did that with Coutinho, but I just mean like a new player that is on the horizon would be fantastic. And yeah, I just hope that we can start to turn that tide around and have some real momentum moving into next season. Lads, been really, really enjoyable, this review of 2022. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for everyone's comments. Thank you for all of your support over the year. It's been amazing. Like I say, since we started the channel just in August, we're up to nigh on 750 subscribers, which is amazing. If you haven't already, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It has been amazing, and we may well be back with a short match preview for the Tottenham game, but we'll certainly be back for a match reaction show after that game on Sunday, which is New Year's Day. Lads, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for jumping on.
Great to be here. Thanks a lot. Cheers all.
Yeah, cheers everyone. And last thing to remember for 2022 is, as always, we'll follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone. Take care.